I'm going to share with you the one reason that, most of the time, political parties pick the wrong leader. And the good news is that we're going to get a chance to watch this play out live. And once you learn what I'm going to share in this video, you get to be all judgy and decide if it happened or not. Does it make sense yet? It will. Stick with me. I'm Steve Sanford. You're watching Dominion Report. The Conservative Party of Canada is holding a leadership review in January. The party will decide whether Pierre Poilievre will stay on as leader or if someone else should take the reins. This is done with a National Party member vote. Most of those votes will be by mail. The convention itself will take place in Calgary at the end of January next year. To select the party leader, the CPC uses a weighted vote rank choice voting system. Here's the Coles notes on how that works. Under the system, all 338 ridings in Canada are awarded 100 points each, making the total count 33,800 points. A candidate needs to win more than 16,900, that's a majority, to win the leadership. The weighted vote system ensures that each riding gets an equal say in who is the party leader. After each party member votes, and the votes within each riding are counted, the points are awarded based on the percentage of votes that each candidate receives within that riding. So for example, if candidate A gets 120 out of the 200 voting members, that's 60% tally, that candidate gets 60 out of the 100 votes coming out of that riding. Now, a bit of a side note here. The CPC leadership voting system also has a ranked choice feature where voters can select their preferences for second place, third place, etc. So if their preferred candidate is eliminated, their ballot still has some value. Now that's interesting to know, especially on the back of our recent discussions about federal election reform. That discussion was in the longest ballot video, and if you want to check it out, I'll put a link below. Not long ago, I put up a poll into a YouTube community post about Pierre Poilievre's leadership. And the results of that poll, I think, really relate to the topic at hand. And I'm going to share those results a little bit later in the video. Now, I did promise to explain the one reason that parties often select the wrong leaders, and we're going to get into that right now. But if you're a smarty pants and you think you know what it is, go ahead and pause the video right here and put your thoughts into the comments below. Let's think for a moment about the people who are members of a political party. Relative to the population at large, these people are more politically engaged, more aware of the personalities, the policies, and the issues involved in politics, and more motivated to achieve their ideals regarding how the country should be governed. That's why they joined a political party. It's no stretch to suggest that they are going to have strong preferences about their preferred political candidates. And it's no stretch to suggest that their preferred candidate is likely to be one that matches their political views. And, as a highly engaged party member, it's more likely that their political views are further from the center relative to the average voting citizen. And here is where you might start to understand the fundamental problem with selecting party leaders. Because Canada has a huge contingency of swing voters. Yes, some of us are entrenched in our preferred party and our preferred political views, and unlikely to change that. But many of us vote for the best option that we observe each election cycle, without party loyalty, which is actually a good thing. And swing voters are not generally members of any given party and therefore are not involved in selecting leadership candidates. It's the party members who vote for the leadership, and they are generally more inclined to select the leader that fits with their beliefs than they are to select the leader that is likely to capture the middle of the road swing voter. That's not really ideal, right? But don't worry, it gets worse. Remember that weighted vote system I talked about earlier? The one that ensures equal say from each riding? Well, the problem with equal say from each riding is that it almost guarantees unequal say from each party member. That's because ridings with fewer members end up with a more powerful voice in the party. Let me provide an example. During the last CPC leadership review, the riding of Foothills, Alberta, had about 2,100 party member voters. This means that each individual in that riding was responsible for less than 1/5 of one single point out of the 100 points that are assigned to that riding. And yet, over in Quebec, in the riding of Brome-Missisquoi, hope I pronounced that correctly, in that riding there were only 28 voting members. 28. That means that each individual voting member there was responsible for nearly 4 of the 100 points assigned to the riding. Now let's think about the demographics of those types of ridings. The ones where there are just a few members of a national party. Now, I'm sort of speculating a little bit here, but I think it's a reasonable assumption that party members who are in strong opposition ridings, so in this case, CPC members in a strong PQ or Liberal or NDP riding, probably feel more politically isolated, perhaps even politically disillusioned, and are quite likely more overwhelmed with opposition, with the opposing political views in their neighborhood. It would be natural for them to want to offset those opposing views with a further from center version of their political preference. So the people that we think would select a leadership that is more perhaps extreme on the political scale have a vote that is worth more than the average politically engaged party member. In the example I provided, it was over 2,000% more. And we've already explained that even just the average politically engaged party member is already unlikely to vote based on who appeals to centrist swing voters. And therein lies the conundrum surrounding political leadership selection. And to be totally fair, we have been picking on the CPC here because they happen to have a convention coming up soon. Pretty much all parties in Canada at all levels of government work this way, and therefore all suffer from the same syndrome. Now, I did promise that I'd share the results of the Community Post viewer poll that I posted a while back. It was just after Pierre Poilievre's by-election victory. Now, in that poll, I asked viewers thought that the CPC should retain Poilievre as their leader, or if they thought that new leadership would be better. And I actually broke it down into 4 options so viewers could self-identify whether they were CPC voters or not CPC voters. Among CPC voters, the results were actually equal, half supporting Poilievre to continue and half saying that new party leadership is required. Among the non-CPC voters, and the choices were worded, if I was a CPC voter, I would support Poilievre or I would seek new leadership. Among non-CPC voters, the ratio was 82-1 in favor of new leadership. Now, there are all kinds of methodology issues with a poll like this. I don't pretend for a minute that a poll on YouTube from an admittedly center-left channel in any way provides statistically projectable data. But I think the results do provide some kind of interesting insights and perhaps maybe back up the premise that we've been discussing here. You can check the comments for the full results of that poll. And since we've been picking on the CPC, as I mentioned at the top, we're going to get to watch what happens in the days and weeks leading up to the January Leadership Convention, as well as how it actually turns out. And afterward, we can come back and rewatch this video, and then we can discuss whether they fell into this trap or not. And you don't want to miss that discussion, so be sure to subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate it.